Allen Lund Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
Trucking has plenty of statistics, tracking everything from freight tonnage to the number of drivers in the industry. But Women in Trucking has a very specific mission, and to see how things are going toward that mission, they've developed their own set of statistics, the WIT Index. I'll talk with Jennifer Hedrick of Women in Trucking. Several members of Congress are taking aim at the rule requiring entry-level driver training in the industry. I'll find out who's involved and what exactly they want to do from Landline Magazine senior editor Mark Schremer. A passion for art and an interest in trucks has turned into a career for an Ohio woman. Landline Now's Ashley Blackford speaks with an artist who draws trucks and features classic and historic rigs on YouTube. And finally, it's August, and that means lawmakers are back in their home districts meeting with constituents. And that means opportunity for truckers interested in speaking out on industry issues. I'll talk with Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today, Yellow making it official over the weekend, filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But while many companies utilize Chapter 11 protections to reorganize their business, Yellow is using it to help shut the company down. In a news release, CEO Darren Hawkins said it was with profound disappointment that Yellow is closing after nearly 100 years in business. Hawkins also pointing the finger at the International Brotherhood of Teamsters in the statement. He said Yellow faced 9 months of union intransigence, bullying, and deliberately destructive tactics. Hawkins said that contributed to Yellow's demise by forcing the company to halt its business plan, quote, literally driving our company out of business despite every effort to work with them, end quote. Yellow has a long road ahead of it still. As it works to settle its remaining debts, the company is facing a class action lawsuit over alleged violations of the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. Former workers say Yellow did not provide 60 days advance written notice of terminations in spite of federal regulations. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has renewed CRST's exemption that allows certain student drivers to run team with a CDL holder. This is the third time the company has gotten a pass on the regulation. Current rules require a CDL holder with the proper class and endorsements to be seated in the front, while a commercial learner's permit holder is driving on public roads or highways. This exemption allows student drivers who pass a skills test but have not yet received the CDL document to drive a CRST commercial motor vehicle, along with a CDL holder who is not necessarily in the passenger seat. CRST previously received a 2-year exemption from the regulation in 2016, then a 5-year exemption in 2018. The new extension runs another 5 years through September 2028. FMCSA has granted similar exemptions to such fleets as CR England, New Prime, Werner Enterprises, and others throughout the years. The number of people employed in the transportation sector dipped a bit last month. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the unemployment rate in the sector hit 4.9% in July. That's up 0.7 percentage points compared to a year earlier and even above the pre-pandemic July 2019 level of 4.2%. Unemployment in the transportation sector was higher than unemployment for the entire U.S. economy, which settled in at 3.8% in July. As for the number of trucking jobs, the agency says 1.6 million people had trucking jobs in July, down 0.2% from the previous month, but up half a percentage point compared to July of 2022. We're going to give you more regular reports of diesel prices nationwide amid the recent spike. Monday's averages were up even more. ProMiles.com says the average for a gallon of diesel nationwide came to nearly $4.14 on Monday, up more than 9 cents compared to last Monday. The ProMiles.com report says prices rose week over week in 8 of the 10 regions they track, the only exceptions being the Central Atlantic and Gulf Coast regions where prices actually went down. The slow and steady rise nationwide has been attributed to a number of factors, including OPEC cuts. We'll have another update on average diesel prices tomorrow when the Energy Information Administration's latest figures are out. Volvo Trucks North America is recalling a couple hundred electric trucks over an electrical problem. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the battery may short circuit in certain VNR electric vehicles model years 2020 through 2024. Nearly 175 trucks fall under the recall. Dealers will replace the batteries free of charge. Notification letters are expected to go out in mid-September. Owners can contact Volvo customer service for questions in the meantime. A Colorado truck driver who successfully sued her former employer is now taking on her most recent employer. Mignon Herzlevesque is the trucker's name. In 2019, she sued the United States Truck Driver School for pregnancy discrimination and won. Now it's Arctic Glacier that's in her legal crosshairs. Fox 21 reports that Herzlevesque worked as the company's only female truck driver for 2 years, at times putting in 90-hour work weeks and never facing any disciplinary action. But after giving birth to her daughter in June of 2022, Herzlevesque said Arctic Glacier refused to put her back on the schedule, claiming a lack of available hours. But her former coworkers say there was plenty of work to be done. They just didn't give those hours to Herzlevesque. Fox 21 did reach out to Arctic Glacier for comment, but has yet to receive a response. Daimler Truck's chief financial officer has died. The company says Johann Gutz died in a tragic incident over the weekend, but provided no other details. Gutz spent his entire professional career with the Daimler Group. He had been CFO of the company for a little more than 2 years. Johann Gutz was 52 years old. He leaves a wife and 2 children. New details tonight about Missouri's plans to improve railroad crossings across the state. A total of $50 million will be spent on the problem. A study pinpointed 47 public rail crossings and 27 freight train crossings for improvements, while suggesting another 17 crossings be closed off permanently over safety concerns. One of those is in Mendon, Missouri, which was the scene of a deadly crash last year. The crossing, which had no lights or warning signals, has been closed ever since. U.S. government stats show that about half of all rail crossings nationwide, some 130,000 of them, are considered passive, meaning they don't have any lights or arms that automatically come down when a train is approaching. Roughly 2,000 collisions happen at rail crossings nationwide each year. The Colorado DOT has added 3 new videos that are aimed at educating and preparing truck drivers for the unique challenges posed by the state's mountain highways. The videos are specifically focused on safe winter driving, navigating construction work zones, and handling hot breaks. Each topic has its own dedicated 10-minute video as part of the overall series to help prepare drivers. The Mountain Rules series was developed by CDOT in partnership with the Colorado State Patrol and the Colorado Motor Carriers Association in 2019. A test of the emergency broadcasting system will go nationwide this fall. FEMA has scheduled a nationwide alert in October that will test all radios, televisions, and cell phones across the country. It's set for 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, October 4th. This will be just the second nationwide test for all cellular devices and the 7th for radio, television, and other video providers. And finally, another California carpool violation, this one courtesy of a state trooper who pulled over a driver on the 101 in the Bay Area recently. The driver was using a carpool lane with a mannequin dressed in a hat and sunglasses in the passenger seat. It even had facial hair and a shirt that gave the illusion of sleeve and torso tattoos. The trooper's Facebook post read, "That moment you get pulled over for a carpool violation and your passenger in the back chooses to remain silent." The carpool violation carries a $490 fine. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. If someone tries to coerce you into violating the regulations, either call 1-888-DOT-SAFT or file a complaint online to the National Consumer Complaint Database. Next, I'll discuss the WIT Index with Jennifer Hedrick of Women in Trucking, and Ashley Blackford speaks with an artist who draws trucks and features classic and historic rigs on YouTube. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the program. Please stay with us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
For Katniss accuracy, weigh your truck on a cat scale.
When you weigh on a cat scale, you get a no excuses guarantee. You can now save time weighing by using your smartphone. Find out more at weightmytruck.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. There are plenty of statistics in trucking, tracking everything from freight tonnage to the number of drivers in the industry. But Women in Trucking has a very specific mission, and to see how things are going toward that mission, they've developed their own set of statistics, the WIT Index. Jennifer Hedrick is the president of Women in Trucking. She talked with me recently about the WIT Index released for this year and what it means for women's progress in the trucking industry. What is the Women in Trucking Index?
Sure. So the Women in Trucking Index is an industry barometer that we use to benchmark and measure each year the percentage of women who make up roles in transportation across 4 key areas. And those are corporate management or, your C-suite roles, boards of directors, functional roles such as operations, technicians, HR, talent management, and marketing, and those types of roles and responsibilities, and then professional drivers.
Okay. What were the basic results this year?
Sure. So we had, for the 2023 WIT Index, we had a total of 350 respondent companies, and the companies ranged in sizes and services. So some of those companies were those that had for-hire fleets or private fleets as part of their company's operations. Many were full truckload, less than truckload, refrigerated, flatbed, expedited, and liquid. And then we had a small percentage of respondents that reported on behalf of organizations such as manufacturers, retailers, distributors, and other company types. So as you can see, kind of a big range of companies that participate in the WIT Index. And I appreciate the opportunity to highlight just a few things that we found from the index this year. And first off, we're continuing to see growth in the number of women in C-suite roles. And so amongst the respondents, 31.6% of executives in C-suite roles are women. So that's obviously really encouraging. And then, of course, also encouraging, we learned separately from Forbes that for the first time ever, women comprise 10% of CEO roles in Fortune 500 companies. So all of this is really encouraging to see women continue to gain not only more responsibilities, but make up a larger percentage of these executive roles in companies. And we show also that women who are company leaders, which we define as someone with supervisory responsibilities, are on average 36.9% female. So an increase in that area as well. And then 40% of our WIT Index respondents said that between 20 to 49% of their boards of directors were comprised of females, which of course is also terrific. But conversely, we're seeing that 23.1% said they had no female representatives on their boards at all. So some clearly have a bit of work to do there. We did see a very small decline, 1.5% in the number of female drivers from last year to this year. And so our index respondents indicate that 12% of their drivers are female. And then one last point in kind of highlighting some of the things that we found this year in the WIT Index, we've seen significant gains in technician roles. In fact, a doubling from the 2022, WIT Index numbers. So an average of 7.5% overall technician roles are held by females. So still quite a ways to go there in catching up with their male counterparts, but it's nice to see that progress in those technician roles.
What do you see as the most significant takeaway from this year's numbers?
Well, I think just quite simply, we're making progress. and that's exciting for us. And then, of course, we're seeing just a continued commitment to increasing gender diversity. And that's really evident in the numbers that we're seeing, the companies that are participating in this index and eager to share their information. Just really, again, we are making progress.
Let's take a look at the number of women behind the wheel. You indicated that there's a little bit of a drop there.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? What are the factors that are causing that number to go down a little bit?
Sure. And again, it's largely inconsequential. It's 1.6% drop that we saw within the WIT Index. And we, I think overall we're still seeing some residual effects from the pandemic and the challenging economy. And so some female drivers left the industry for a variety of different reasons. And so I think that can help shed some light on that small drop. And then also, we are seeing a number of drivers hit that retirement age. And so, those positions will have to be replaced by others who are entering the industry.
Interesting. So is that a significant cause of the drop, you think, is the aging driver workforce?
I think that's one of the factors. I definitely would not say it's significant. It's an area where we're not entirely sure, of this particular drop, but I think there are a variety of different combinations that come into play here, and that certainly could be one of those.
What would you like to see in terms of the numbers over the next year? I mean, what is for you a goal to be achieved?
Well, I think for us, our mission as Women in Trucking Association, our mission is to increase gender diversity in transportation, celebrate accomplishments of women in transportation, and eliminate obstacles. And we continue to push on that mission and achieve that mission year after year. And these gains, both the number of women entering into the transportation profession and opportunities that are being created for women, are encouraging. And so our numbers reflect that level of encouragement, that level of increase, and we certainly just want to see them continue to grow year over year.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, is there anything else that I missed or that you think I should have asked about?
No, I think that covers it. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our WIT Index. And I will say that this information is available on our website and that the report can be downloaded. So folks can go to womenintrucking.org and get that information and read the full report.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Jennifer Hedrick, President and CEO of Women in Trucking. As Jennifer mentioned, you can find information about the index at the organization's website, womenintrucking.org. Several members of Congress are taking aim at the rule requiring entry-level driver training in the trucking industry. Here to discuss the situation is Landline Magazine senior editor Mark Schremer. Mark, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start with the rule itself, because that, of course, is at the center of this. What basically is the rule that's at question here?
Well, it's something, as you're well aware, OIDA has worked on trying to get implemented for a long time. And years ago, there was a negotiated rulemaking to create entry-level driver training standards. And I would say that, even the ones that were put into place that actually started in February 2022, those are pretty meager. With that said, there's still no behind-the-wheel number of hours, minimum number of hours requirement. But, there are some new requirements, including the minimum amount of over-the-road time for a trainer and those sorts of things that have been created. And now this group of lawmakers wants to pull that back and have where there is no entry-level driver training rule, which obviously the association looks at as would be a major step back.
Who's behind this effort? Who are the members of Congress involved?
So this is introduced by Representative Good, a Republican out of Virginia. I don't have a list of the names, all the co-sponsors right in front of me, but he introduced this last congressional session as well. It didn't get enough steam to go forward, but now they're introducing it again, and we're starting to, like I said, already 14 co-sponsors. So there is some momentum behind it. And what's what's interesting is, this all kind of starts from that ATA narrative that there's a truck driver shortage. And so the idea behind this bill is, okay, if there's a shortage of truck drivers, this extra requirement to make sure that there's some sort of training for these drivers, that they would look at it as a deterrent to get more drivers in the industry. But the reality is, we saw from a recent NBC report that there's actually overcapacity. After the pandemic, and there was kind of a rush to drivers, people signing up, becoming owner-operators and this sort of thing, because they were told that this is where the money was at and that there wasn't enough truck drivers out there. But now you're seeing actually overcapacity, freight rates lowered, and that's something that the association has said for years, that was a myth, that there was a driver shortage. It's never been a recruitment issue. It's been a retention issue. Drivers get in, they realize that the pay and the working conditions aren't great, and they often leave fairly quickly.
Well, and of course, Todd Spencer spoke a little bit about that and kind of reinforced those points.
Yeah, and he was actually quoted in that NBC News article that I told you about, and also was on News Nation, kind of talking about that, explaining, and Todd's been around for more than 40 years in the trucking industry, so he really knows kind of the whole history behind this. And while the mainstream media and the general public was hearing about this idea of a driver shortage during the pandemic, the reality is that ATA and others have pushed this narrative for decades, and they really kind of used that opportunity when people were seeing that they weren't getting toilet paper and those sort of things, and used that to say, oh yeah, the driver shortage, it's really hitting us. But we see how quick things can change in the trucking industry, and really that was kind of an anomaly to the time, and we're kind of seeing that now. But you just look at the idea. I mean, this bill is even called the Trucking Workforce Improvement Act, and the irony that eliminating training is going to
improve the workforce.
I mean, it's really kind of a silly thing. The fact, when I started in this industry, I was shocked when I first learned that there wasn't already an entry-level driver training requirement, and now somehow there are lawmakers that actually want to get rid of it now that it's finally happened.
So where is this bill right now?
So it is. It's a House bill, and it hasn't been a part of. It hasn't gone through committee or anything like that yet. But like I said, it has about 14 co-sponsors. I honestly don't think this bill has a huge chance of being signed into law, but it's definitely something for people to be aware of, to know that it's out there.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much.
No problem.
I've been talking with Landline Magazine senior editor Mark Schremer about a bill now in Congress that would overturn the driver training rule. You can read more about this and other legislative efforts that affect the trucking industry at landline.media. A couple of quick reminders. Nearly 5,000 2022 and 23 Peterbilt 579 trucks are being recalled because of an issue with the electrical system. A fastener on the front spring bracket may have been installed with the head on the outside of the frame rail, which can chafe and damage the alternator positive cable, increasing the risk of fire. Dealers will make the repair for free. Owners of affected trucks should receive a notification letter sometime around August 11th. And the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance has announced this year's Brake Safety Week. During the week of August 20th through the 26th, CVSA will focus on brake lining and pad violations. When inspectors conduct the brake portion of an inspection, they'll check for missing, non-functioning, loose, or cracked parts or other brake problems. We'll be back in just a moment with more. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
You trust Prepass for more bypasses? Now let Prepass help with tolls. Prepass toll service means lower cost, one invoice for all tolls, and fewer violations. Created by truckers for truckers. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
Landline Now, welcome back. An artist in Ohio found her niche when she started drawing semis at truck shows. That led to an idea to feature classic and historic rigs on her YouTube channel. Miss Flatbed Red, or Red as she goes by, joins me now. Red, can you talk to me about your YouTube channel and some of the things you feature on there?
Oh, man. I think YouTube was sort of an accident. It all started, let's see, I put a video up there of me driving. I think it was my first time driving a truck years ago. And then I basically forgot that I ever made a channel in the first place. And then when TikTok really picked up, like in 2021 at the American Truck Historical Society convention in Harrisonburg, Virginia, I was really curious. I heard someone tell a story about his truck to somebody else. And I was thinking about how TikTok has a voiceover feature. Mm-hmm. So I went up to him and said, if I just took a quick video of your truck, like a minute long, could you tell that same story that you just told as a voiceover? And he told it like a professional, like he had said the same story a million times. It was perfect. And it was like a minute long. It was perfect. So that started a whole idea that week, where I would just take videos of trucks and have the owners talk about it. But at the time, I thought they needed to be like a minute or less long because that's how TikTok worked. Mm-hmm. But I really quickly realized the story is a whole lot longer than that a lot of times. So I just let people talk as much as they want, or as little as they want. And all the videos were just one specific truck and the story behind it. And then it's like branched out into more than that since then, 2 years later.
And when you think about it, you know, these guys, these are kind of like their specialty trucks. And so when they go to shows, they probably are giving this same spiel, you know, every time someone new comes around. Is that kind of what you found?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of times the people are like, I've told this story so many times. So I tell them, make a little QR code. You'll never have to tell the story again. We'll just take people straight to the video, and they'll get to hear even more about the truck than you would tell them if they just walked up and asked you. But on that note, like a lot of times people get not caught off guard, but like a little nervous that they're being recorded. But it's almost always, it's just a voiceover. So they're not on camera. I hold the phone like below our sight line so they can't even see it. So it makes them more comfortable. Like, just tell me about your truck, just like I was walking up to you and asking you about it at a show. Sometimes they want to practice, but it's always best the first time around. And a lot of times they even get so into it that I end up turning the camera on and recording them walking around and pointing things out. And it makes it a little more interesting than just the normal voiceover I do.
What have you noticed when it comes to the passion that some of these truck owners and drivers have for their truck?
That's a really good question. And like one of my favorite things about being in this trucking world is that not everybody in it has a trucking background. A lot of the shows I go to are antique trucks that don't work anymore. And it's just, my grandpa was a truck driver, so I wanted to go out and find a truck like he had that I rode in as a kid. And I'm an engineer and I have nothing to do with trucks, but I wanted to recreate that memory of my childhood. So they're really eager to talk about why they're so into more of the hobby side of things than the profession necessarily. And it seems like a lot of niche interests are more, what do I want to say? Not like excluding other people, but It seems like trucking just brings people together that have way more diverse backgrounds and interests. Like my background's in music and art, and here I am talking about truck videos. So I just like how open it is and how willing people are to share their interest. And they're proud of what they make, so they really want to, or what they own, so they want to share that passion with other people. That's what I find it shows.
And I've definitely found that as well. And yeah, I want to dive into a little bit of your background. How did you kind of get into the trucking world?
It was an accident, too. I lived in England for a few years. I was studying art and music over there. I moved back here and then married a guy who was into trucks. The first show I went to was just like a local EPHS show. And I met a few of his friends, but it was like the middle of June and really hot. And I just wasn't really into it then. But he's really bad at introducing people to each other, making introductions. So I'm like, I'll give it one more chance. And we went to Louisville to Matt's in 2017. And I took a sketchbook because I'm like, I know I'm going to end up being alone a lot of this time. And I started drawing Jason Alt's cab over, his 362 Peterbilt. I had no idea what it was at the time. I just thought it was pretty. And it was in the air conditioning. So while I was drawing it, someone came up and said, if I paid you, would you draw my truck? It's over here. I'm like, sure. How much? Like, I don't know. Some money and an ice cream cone, because there's really good ice cream at the expo center there. And it's all just sort of going crazy since then.
Did you ever imagine it would get to where it is today?
Oh, no. Like then I was, 2017, I was working, I think I was at my local newspaper by then, or it was about that time. So I was doing nothing to do with trucks. I was trying to also do some art on the side, drawing portraits and pet portraits, but everybody draws portraits through pet portraits, and every artist wants to have their own little niche. So this was the opportunity. I had no idea what I was doing at the time drawing trucks, because it's a whole lot different drawing all those straight lines and things. I'm drawing faces or animals. Mm-hmm. So it's been a learning curve for me. It was almost like learning to draw all over again. But I have a little method now. And yeah, so it's a whole lot, not easier, but a whole lot more streamlined, I'll say, than just sort of winging it sitting outside of the show.
Do you go to any truck shows still, or?
Oh, yeah. I've already gone to probably, 7 or 8 this year. I think it'll be about 13 by the time I'm finished at the end of this year. From Matt's all the way through to at least a show in Wisconsin in October, maybe one up in Michigan later in October. And if I can find one a reasonable distance from me in November, I'm happy to keep going. Because now, instead of drawing outside of the shows, I talk to drivers and take videos, and I have to stock those videos up like a squirrel gathering acorns to make it through the winter. Because I try to put out at least one video a week. Mm-hmm. But I try, as quickly as I can edit them. Plus, I'm drawing on top of that, and I teach piano, so I'm pretty busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What's the reaction from your YouTube videos of the trucks that you take?
First of all, the drivers are really excited to be able to tell people, just go search my name on YouTube. You'll find a video of my truck. Just yesterday, a friend sent a picture of her son looking at her boyfriend's truck and how excited he was to see his truck online. So that was pretty cute, seeing the little boy excited to see a truck he knows online. Yeah, once they get over, the drivers themselves get over that initial, oh my goodness, I'm being recorded, I think they're all pretty excited then to know that the story is being kept. And on that note, all the videos, once I have them all edited, I put them on an external hard drive. And when that hard drive's filled up, I'm going to send it to be part of the American Truck Historical Society's library. So they can do what they want to keep those videos and stories around for years to come.
That's awesome. And as far as your viewers go, you have thousands of views on these videos, right?
Yeah, it's getting a little out of control. It's pretty cool. Mostly, actually, I think I just saw this yesterday, like 99% of the thumbs up, thumbs down, it's thumbs up. So very few thumbs down. I wish that wasn't even an option. Yeah. I try to keep all my social media really positive. Mm-hmm. Like if people leave negative, rude comments, I delete them. I monitor the comments. Like I try to keep everything a upbeat, happy, positive environment, which I'm sure plenty of people want their opinions to be heard. But if it's negative, my platforms are not those platforms for you. So.
And I was looking at some of your videos and looking at your most popular videos. I think it's the second most popular one is of you driving.
Yeah, that's the old video too. The one that I posted and then forgot about the channel. That was maybe 5 years ago. But since then, I went out and got my CDL last year before all the laws changed about having to go to truck driving school and all that. I had a local friend help me with that. So the videos of driving, like from inside the cab, are definitely the ones that get the most views. It doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody driving. They get the most comments too, like, oh, you did this wrong. You did this wrong.
Of
That's
course.
Impressive. How are you shifting without the clutch? It's always the same comments explaining the same things. But yeah, driving videos are definitely the most popular. But I want those truck tour videos to get all the attention. All those drivers sharing their stories. I think there's some really cool stuff out there. I would really hope more people listen to at some point.
Mm-hmm. And how cool has it been to, talk to these drivers and hear the stories? Like I said, I found you when I had looked at the interview you'd done with Kate Whiting. And just there's such unique stories about how some of these trucks are acquired.
Kate actually told me because of that video, that's what sort of helped her get out there a little bit more, which is really cool. And she's such a sweet person. It's really nice to know that it helped get her story out there, because the reason she got a truck in the first place is all interesting to me too. She was inspired by seeing a truck from someone else that I know to make her own. And yeah, so it's been really neat to help give other people a platform to help share their stories too. I think that makes sense.
Since you have kind of come into this world, and I myself am fairly new to it as well, coming into this job, what do you think people kind of on the outside who don't know, all they do is see trucks, going on the interstate, what was the most surprising thing to you, or what is it something that you don't think people, the general public, know about trucking?
I think a lot of the general public think that truckers are just stupid, uneducated people. And that is not true at all. Like, I know, like I said, a lot of the people in this trucking world have come from all sorts of different backgrounds. But, like, you have people who wear, like, jeans and dirty T-shirts and high-vis jackets and whatever because they run huge, successful companies with a reach across 2 entire countries. And they're, like, super successful, and people just don't give them the time of day because of how they're dressed, maybe. And now I have all of my friends from my previous life, my non-trucking life, who tell me randomly, like, I was driving down the street and I thought, wow, that's a really pretty truck. Like, I'm a retired music teacher, one of them. Like, why am I thinking this? Like, you're welcome. See?
That's funny. You've opened up a whole new world for them.
Right, exactly. So I'm trying a little bit at a time to help make people realize, I don't know, it's not some weird, shadowy world.
Mm-hmm.
People, just normal people. Anyone can like trucks.
If any of our listeners want to see your work or get a hold of you or see your YouTube channel, where can they find that?
Yeah, my website is missflatbed.red, no .com. And that has links to all my social media, information on booking artwork, pictures of other artwork I've done, etc. And then my YouTube channel, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm on all those things. And it's Miss Flatbed Red across all of that. TikTok might be Miss.Flatbed Red or something. So there was some drama with TikTok. I'm going back. So I'm on all those platforms at my website.
That was Miss Flatbed Red talking about her artwork and YouTube channel. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Loadboard Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Loadboard Pro.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. It's August and lawmakers are back in their home districts meeting with constituents, and that means opportunities for truckers interested in speaking out on industry issues. Here with a little engagement with your Representatives 101 is Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's August recess, but that doesn't mean work stops. In fact, we need to kind of up our ante so we can get a lot done this fall. So I'm happy to be talking about this today.
Well, let's start with this. And I think people are always curious about this. Why is it that members of Congress go back to their districts in August specifically?
I don't actually have an answer for that. I don't know. Maybe it goes back to the days when they needed to go back and farm their land. I don't know. But since I joined the swamp here in Washington way back in the early 2000s, August recess has always been something that everyone looks forward to here in DC. And I think it's because it gives you a time to breathe and to focus on all the work that has piled up that you were distracted from completing while your boss, whether it be a congressman or a senator or even folks within the administration, are in town. And now that a lot of them are back home meeting with constituents, you can really get down to work. But it's that meeting with constituents that is key for truckers this month, because now is the time to engage them, because you will have a captive audience. You will have an active ear of your local lawmaker, because that's exactly what they're home to do, is to listen to constituents and determine what needs to happen this fall and winter and into 2024.
You mentioned getting an active ear of the local lawmaker. Normally, when we talk about this, Colin, it's a matter of getting a member of the staff on the phone, because it's kind of a rare thing when you call into their office to get the actual member of Congress.
True.
But can you get face-to-face contact during this August recess?
You sure can. And I say shoot for the stars. I mean, try to talk to your elected official directly, and you can call their local offices and ask for a meeting request. And I always say, when I worked for a congressman for 8 years here in Washington, he was constantly meeting with constituents. It's not abnormal for an elected official to actually sit down and speak with constituents when constituents request such a meeting back home on specific issues or more generally about the transportation or trucking industry. So don't hesitate to ask to speak to the lawmaker. But if that doesn't happen, because their schedules will be pretty full, talking to a staffer is not settling. Staffers do a lot of the work here in Washington, D.C. They understand the issues. A lot of them are responsible for a portfolio that will include all transportation issues, of which trucking is a major component. So they might have some more familiarity with these issues than you anticipate. And I still think it's very productive to talk to staff. But again, ask to speak to the congressman, to the congresswoman, to the senator, because you might surprise yourself with how much access you do have as a constituent.
Well, there's also the matter that they're going to events and holding events throughout their districts. Give us a few examples of those.
Yeah, I mean, they go to town halls, community fairs. Sometimes they host events. These are all great opportunities to engage your members of Congress. They also tend to focus some of their efforts on advisory panels that their offices have put together for them. And that typically includes folks of a specific industry that can talk about things related to that industry and what they need to come from Washington. There's a good chance your representatives here in D.C. have transportation-themed advisory panels. And I think it's important to ask about that and to say, well, do you have representation from truck drivers, from professional drivers, men and women who make their living behind the wheel? And don't hesitate to become an active member on that level. They don't meet terribly often. I think they probably meet every couple months, maybe twice a year, and it's a good opportunity to make sure that drivers' voices are being heard in those panels as well. But it's just as productive to meet them at your community fair or at a town hall they're hosting in your neighborhood, and where they're taking questions from the audience. And I think it's important to remember for drivers' perspective that you're experts on these issues, and they need to learn what drivers need and the challenges they face in order to advance productive policies, in order to understand that things like our truck parking bill, our speed limiter bills, are proposals and policies that need to be advanced to improve the career, to improve safety. So I've never met a trucker who was shy, I should say, who wasn't forthcoming with their opinion. And for some reason, when you get them in front of lawmakers, they too often clam up. And I'm not saying that's everyone, but too often we encounter truckers who say, I don't know how Washington works. I don't know how the legislative process works. You don't need to know that to have a very productive conversation with your lawmaker. Just tell them what you know, and that's trucking.
Well, and you talk now about the congressman, but you also mentioned the staff back there. And I would think typically when I call the staff of my local congressman, they want to know what I think about an issue. And you get the feeling that they're kind of trying to get you off the phone to get the next call. During August, don't you have a little bit more time to have a more in-depth conversation with them as well?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, their boss isn't in town bothering them. So they tend to have a little bit more time to focus on more localized issues. And sometimes these staffers from Washington will even be in your neck of the woods because it's a great opportunity for them to either return home because they live in the district or the state that their boss represents, or to visit for the first time or periodically visit because it gives them a better sense of what's going on the ground back home, and they can see things firsthand. I mean, we've had board members welcome DC staffers to their facilities and showed them around their trucking facilities while they were visiting during an August recess. And I think that's also a very productive way to go about engaging not only staff, but your local decision makers and policymakers.
I'm wondering if you can offer some advice, Colin, for folks in how to approach members of Congress. If you do get a face-to-face meeting, what are some do's and don'ts that people should keep in mind when they get a meeting like this?
The first do is stay on topic, and the first don't is get off topic. I mean, as simple as that sounds, I mean, it's easy. I'm sure there's a lot of things lawmakers are doing that you want to talk about. But if you're going in there to address trucking issues, stay on topic. Talk about parking. Talk about speed limiters. Talk about brokers. Whatever it is that is most important to you, talk about that and stay focused on it. Don't venture off into other industries, into other topics, and because you're just going to muddy the water. I think having a clear, concise message and what we call an ask here in Washington, have an ask. Say, will you co-sponsor the truck parking bill? Will you co-sponsor the speed limiter bill? Those are what you need to go in and focus on. And I always remind folks, the more you talk about different issues, the less powerful that issue that means the most to you becomes. So I keep it neat and tidy.
I would think, too, you want to avoid things like, I'll never vote for you again if blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you do get people that have that attitude, but you've got to kind of stifle that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes hand in hand with the fact that even if this person is from a different party than what you identify as, or you didn't vote for them, or you don't support them, their job is to still represent you. And you still need to go in there and make a clear and coherent argument about why they need to help truckers in the manner that you think suits the best. So break down those walls, because you might be surprised how reactive and responsive some members of the other party or folks you didn't support during the campaign might actually be to your issues. And that's the best way to turn a potential opponent into a champion on a lot of these issues. And that happens frequently. And don't underestimate your own ability to be persuasive. And I think if you again, present a clear and concise message to them, this is how you can go about actually helping constituents in your district, in your state, who make a living behind the wheel. It's going to be a compelling argument, and hopefully we'll see some pay dirt from it.
Okay. Well, Colin, thank you very much for the information and the advice.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
I've been talking with Colin Long of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. And folks, you can call your congressman's office and find out where they're going to be when by dialing up the U.S. Capitol switchboard. That phone number is 202-224-3121. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome,
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.